Around 2007 was the golden age for Taiwan's tech industry. The panel and DRAM industries were particularly booming. In the third quarter of 2007, the quarterly profit of Taiwan's AUO Electronics even surpassed Samsung and LG, shocking the Korean industry. It also triggered Samsung's Kill Taiwan plan. How did this plan push Taiwanese firms to the brink of collapse, and how did they rebound after the crisis? To deal with Taiwan's panel makers, Samsung used a vicious tactic, betraying its industry peers for its own benefit. Between 2001 and 2006, Samsung led a series of secret meetings called the Crystal Meetings, inviting major Asian panel manufacturers, including those from Taiwan, Korea, and Japan, to secretly fix LCD panel prices. In 2006, when Samsung learned the US DOJ might have evidence, it confessed to the price-fixing cartel and turned on the other companies, providing evidence of their involvement. For confessing and informing, Samsung became a whistleblower and avoided huge fines. But Taiwanese panel makers weren't so lucky. AUO, Chumei, Chunhua Picture Tubes, and Hanstar faced total US fines of $815 million. Even more painfully, many senior executives from these firms were not only indicted by the US DOJ, but were also sentenced to prison in the US. But Samsung's assault wasn't over. It then launched a fierce price war. After the 2008 global financial crisis, market demand plummeted. But Samsung wasn't scared. It had its own TV brand and a complete panel production line with a high degree of vertical integration. To ensure its panel factories maintained capacity and profitability, Samsung decided to cancel all its orders with Taiwanese firms, dealing a heavy blow to AUO and Chimei. Due to the sharp drop in orders, AUO and Chimei's capacity utilization fell below 70% or even 60%. But at the same time, Samsung's panel utilization rate remained above 80%. This huge gap in utilization rates left Taiwanese panel production lines idled for long periods. Their earnings couldn't cover their costs, especially Chimei, which had the highest debt ratio at the time, was burning through the most cash. To ease financial pressure, Chimei founder Shi Wenlong was forced to pledge most of the family's shares to banks for loans. AUO and Chimei, Taiwan's two panel giants, suffered during the post-crisis downturn. Their cumulative losses hit 375.1 billion NT dollars. Eventually, Chimei couldn't hold on. In 2010, it merged with Innolux and TPO to become today's Innolux Corporation. Once competing on the world stage with Samsung and LG, Taiwan's panel industry's market position has since shrunk. Besides panels, Taiwan's DRAM industry also couldn't escape Samsung's attack. Back in 2006, the global DRAM industry was booming. Taiwan's three major DRAM makers earned 60.6 billion NT dollars in 2006. At the time, several Taiwanese DRAM firms like PowerChip, Promos, and Winbond decided to partner with Japan's Elpida. PowerChip and Elpida in particular formed a joint venture, Rexchip, and planned in the next 4 to 5 years to build 4 12-inch wafer fabs, aiming to build the world's largest DRAM base. PowerChip's chairman and Elpida's president directly stated that Rexchip's total 12-inch DRAM capacity would surpass Samsung within 3 years. This was a Taiwan-Japan alliance. Samsung's top management at the time, seeing this momentum, was very nervous. They sent many execs to Taiwan to investigate and paid experts for market reports. After their research, they felt Taiwan's reliance on Japanese tech and aggressive expansion model would not be sustainable. They decided to look for a chance to strike. In 2008, Samsung saw its opportunity. The financial crisis suddenly hit that year. PC sales plummeted dramatically. By the end of 2008, the price of DRAM fell from $2.29 to 58 cents, a staggering 75% drop. This price was below the $1 production cost. It was a loss on every chip sold. Taiwanese and Japanese DRAM makers, in order to survive, had to halt investments. Rexchip's 12-inch wafer fab expansion plan, for example, was forced to be postponed. Many DRAM companies, to reduce costs, had to lay off employees or implement unpaid leave. But at this very moment, Samsung made a move that stunned everyone. They did the opposite. They executed a counter-cyclical investment. In 2008, Samsung's semi-capital expenditures topped $4 billion, used to accelerate its process technology and widen the gap with rivals. Then, they sold their DRAM products below cost prices, starting a devastating price war. Taiwan and Japan Elpida had less capital and lacked government support. They simply couldn't withstand it and fell into massive debt. And Samsung's tactics didn't stop there. At the time, electronic products had a growing demand for memory. Many products needed both DRAM and NAND flash for storage. Because Samsung produced both types of key memory, it bundled DRAM and NAND flash together. In contrast, Taiwanese firms and Elpida had no flash and couldn't compete with Samsung. They were easily crushed by Samsung. PowerChip later became a foundry. Promos shifted to IC design. The result was that Taiwan's global DRAM market share dropped from nearly 18% in 2006 to just around 6% in 2012. In the same period, Samsung's share soared from 25.9% to 44.3%. From then on, the global DRAM industry entered an oligopoly dominated by Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. Though Samsung's plan was ruthless, it exposed Taiwanese firms' lack of capital and lack of independent technology. Fortunately, after this painful lesson, Taiwanese firms started to explore new paths. Panel makers actively invested in high-value niche markets, such as smart cockpits and smart healthcare. These were emerging applications. As for DRAM makers, they focused on high-profit, specialized and niche DRAM products like those for 5G, AI, IoT, and automotive systems. This experience taught Taiwan a lesson. Besides condemning Samsung's aggression, how can Taiwan strengthen itself? In a global supply chain led by a few giants, how can Taiwan, with its limited resources, find its proper place? Leave a comment and let's discuss.